general injury update?
We're getting better. Don't want to go into a whole lot of detail because we think that we might have some guys that are available to play, and but they've worked very, very hard. The medical staff has been fantastic. The only guy that we know is not going to be available right now is Kevin Lambert.
Kind of speaking of injuries, how important is it to get Kevin Musa back, especially defensively?
Well, they weren't really back. They battled through it. Both of them, we were amazed that Musa got through 90 minutes. Still, it was difficult for him. For Kev, I had to take him off. I pushed him probably 10, 15 minutes more than I wanted to, but it was more for him to be prepared for the Jamaican national team. Sometimes you just have to do the right thing by the player. And the rest of the guys responded. You know, I thought Joey Farrell and Joey Calistri were fantastic, but we knew, and we've always known when we're fully fit, we're a very good team. And I've really pushed the guys hard this week to understand that if you're not playing and you're not getting as many minutes as you think you want, then you need to do something about it, and you have to be more competitive. And you can't be here for Disneyland.
And then what kind of a challenge is it when you have a guy like Kev who's just coming back from injury and now is immediately flying off to join the national team?
We're fortunate that he wasn't able to play in the weeks prior, so we're used to it. We know what it's going to be like. We know what's needed. But I don't think anybody in this league could replace Kevin Lambert. So we'll be okay. We have some ideas, and we've got some thoughts about this weekend and next, and how to be prepared, and what we're looking at. Birmingham's a very good team. Got some really fantastic players and guys with a lot of experience. So it didn't matter who was here. It's going to be a difficult game.
Is there anything that you took out of Birmingham's last game against the Rebels too?
You know, Red Bulls are a high-pressing team, very organized in the way that they're aggressive, and they really get after it. And Birmingham has smart players, and you know, I thought that they were able to kind of break the press a few times and to create opportunities with their fullbacks getting very high. I like the way that Birmingham plays. They're aggressive and a bit risky, so it should be an entertaining match.
And then kind of speaking off injuries, you guys have had now 7 days in between games after a real condensed schedule, so how's that kind of benefited the tired legs and the injuries in the squad?
Well, the injuries, it's always helpful. You have a little bit of time, but I wasn't willing to give them a lot of extra time off this week. Yeah, we won, but I don't think we performed, you know, very, very well. We had probably about a 10 or 15 minute spell where I thought we were playing good football. After that, it was very disjointed, unorganized, a lot of chaos. So when things are difficult, you know, whether it's adversity, or just challenges, or just a bad run of form, the best leaders are the ones that can keep things simple and can focus and narrow in on your character and your DNA as an organization and as a team. And so this week for us has been not just going back to basics, but really hammering home what is our DNA and making sure everyone understands whether you're playing or not, you know, every role and what's expected. So that's where I'm at right now, and it almost feels a little bit difficult as a manager, but I love that the way the players are accepting the information, and they know that we can't win the championship this Saturday, but it's definitely an opportunity for us to improve and get better and keep moving forward.
And then when you look at some of the issues that you've had in the final third, what kind of things do you think are behind that?
Well, the issues in the final third generally comes from confidence. You know, we're still created a lot of chances. We're still very high in the league in shots taken and shots on goal. We still, you know, if you throw out the New Mexico game, we've got 21 goals for and 14 against or something like this. So is it the clip that people are used to? No, but a lot of that has to do more with our defending and our defensive approach, and were we playing with 2 6s, were we playing in a mid block or a low block, and as opposed to years past, what were we doing? So I've looked at all of that, and I know where the adjustments need to be made. Our offense always comes from our defense. Our offense always comes from our work rate and our desire. And then we have enough talented players that can make things happen, you know. And once that confidence comes for some of these guys, I think we'll be able to score in bunches.
In the last 3 games, you guys have done 3 different formations, I believe. Kind of what's the reasoning behind that, and have you found success in a certain one, or are you still kind of testing out?
We had to change formations primarily out of necessity with the injuries. That was the only reason, and we know who we are and what we do, and what's expected of our guys and the system and the style and how we want to play, and we just have to get back to that and being the best we are at Phoenix Rising football.
Do you think a 4-3-3 is where you guys are best?
I do, yeah.
Speaking of up top, what have you seen from Greg Hurst this season and just kind of his journey in a whole and coming over to America and just his growth?
Well, what I think people don't realize is that Greg Hurst grew up in an amazing academy and played youth football at the Rangers in Scotland, and he's got a great football brain. He really understands the game. His IQ is very high. He's athletic enough to do well in America because we usually put a premium on speed and strength and power. But what really, for me, sets him apart is his feet and how soft his feet are, his skill in the box and how quickly he can get a shot off. These are talents that we don't see very often in this country. And when you do, you've got to kind of keep using it, keep molding him, keep moving him forward, give him the confidence and give him a lot of opportunities. And he did the same thing when he was in Omaha, and he did it prior to that in Chattanooga, and we were just really fortunate to see him early enough and to get the jump on him.
With Kev's absence, do you think we might see Siva in the midfield at all?
It's possible. Or not.
When you talk about kind of just making sure people come in, you talk about New Mexico game, a lot of opportunities for young players. What is the importance of the youth setup at the club, and how excited are you about kind of how good that youth setup has been in the past?
Well, we're not where we want to be, but it's a process, and anytime you want to build a club and an organization, you cannot be short-sighted. The youth development and the youth arm of our club is extremely large. I think there's 7,000 or 8,000 kids in our youth club, and the idea is, first of all, you've got to get everybody communicating, and you've got to streamline the organization from top to bottom, and that's from me all the way down to the youngest coaches, and making sure that we are aware of the players that are in the club first. The second thing you have to do is make sure you have a good curriculum. You've got good coaches at the academy level. You're pushing these players, and then you're exposing them to higher level football. We did that last year by getting into the MLS Next Academy, which is outstanding quality of competition, and we're starting to do a little more by getting them involved in our first team and into USL games. But this is a 5 to 10 year process, and we've got our eyes on some of our 12, 13-year-olds that hopefully someday they might be the next stars of MLS.
Is there anyone in particular that you have seen kind of leading that 5 to 10 year process that you've constantly been in contact with?
Well, we've got a couple different academy directors, but right now Andy Chapman is our director of the academy, and he's also in the first team as a second assistant, and I did that on purpose to make sure that he hears and understands the way the first team is doing things every day. And then you have some continuity, and that's always been my goal, is to be able to promote from within and to give coaches opportunities, just like players, to move up through the ranks. And as I told the owners, someday I may not be here, but when I leave, you'll have a full club and not just a team. The supporters will be proud of everything from the 5-year-olds to the pros, and that's always been my goal, is to be able to build something really special. And I've had some great mentors come before me that have given me a lot of advice on the team, and then continuing to grow the brand.
Speaking of coaches, you're now a fair way into the season. How well do you think you've adjusted as a staff to now having one left?
Not just one. I mean, we lost Sean Edmonds, our strength and conditioning coaches at Minnesota. The year before that, we had lost Blair and Rambo. We had lost an equipment manager. We lost a team administrator. But this is part of football, and we've done so well, I think, that when MLS teams or other teams around the world, they're looking in the U.S., they look at the Tampas, the Louisvilles, the Indies, the Phoenix, the Sacramentos, the teams that have history of winning, and then they want to take their staff. Everybody wants to hire from the groups that are doing well, and to me it's a compliment. I saw Juan last night picked up a huge win. 2 goals in extra time was massive for him, and he's doing a good job, and he's building his own culture. And I talked to Frank Gallup one time about the amount of assistant coaches that he has around the country that are coaching, and he's really proud of it, because he feels like he's found good people. So I think I'm getting to the age where these young guys are getting their opportunities to be head coaches, and it means that I've got a decent eye for talent.
Can you speak at all to Jonah's future with the club?
Not right now.
You last game you started Calicio over Darnell. You might have answered previously, but what was your reasoning behind that?
Darnell played Tuesday in New Mexico. He played 90 minutes, and we were traveling across the country on an 8-hour travel day. So the idea was to try and rest him a little bit. But I thought when we brought him on the field, it was a significant impact in our performance, and he did very well.
I think he had the assist.
Yeah, and it's exactly what he needed. He had a really good week. You know, he's had an up and down season so far, but I thought he had a really, really good week, and it's been good for his confidence.
Going back to kind of the youth setup, what are your thoughts on Jacob Harris and how he's settled into life?
I really like Jacob a lot. You know, he's had some offers to go to some universities, but I think he hasn't found the exact one that he wants. We hope that he stays with us through the fall, as potentially in a gap year. But he's got a good football brain. You know, he's starting to grow and get physically stronger. The kid can run for days. I mean, I think he won our fitness test at the beginning of the season. So anybody that's got that much endurance and that much intelligence, and he's very technically gifted, he's going to be okay. You know, he's got to be a little bit more explosive. He's got to read the game a little bit faster. But that's what he's getting training with the first team now.
You talked about Greg Hurst coming from another country. Abubakar Jai, of course not when he came to the Rising, but what have you seen from him and how he's developed and just kind of been in America as a player?
Well, Babu's been at some great organizations with some great coaches in the U.S., but I think the big thing for Babu has been that he's gone from central midfielder most of his life to now left back, and people have to recognize that's not an easy transition. He is a guy that loves to be on the ball. He's a guy that can solve problems in tight spaces, but he's also extremely athletic. He's goal hungry. So sometimes he has to remember that he has to think defensively first. But I thought he was fantastic at Hartford and really gave us some good moments of football. And he continues to learn and improve. And I told him he owes me nothing. He's an amazing human being, and he always tells me, "Thank you for bringing me to Phoenix." And he's very humble, but he's earned every bit of his opportunities here.
With reports saying that Diego Luna's made a $250,000 move to RSL, what do you think that says about the kind of caliber of the player this league is producing?
Well, there's a lot to it. We talk about it in our organization as well. Just getting him onto the Phoenix Rising first team is one thing, but getting him into the youth national team is another. And having 13, 14, 15-year-olds that are going to national camps is important, because I think for RSL, from an outsider looking in, it's not just to help Real Salt Lake win games, but it's a great investment. You know, if he pans out to be a young domestic player that's playing for the youth national team or the 23s in the Olympics or beyond, our international players are very, very well respected. I mean, the result last night against Morocco was fantastic, but the performance was even better. The way that the guys are playing, what Pulisic is doing in Europe, and Weston McKennie, and all, I mean, the list goes on and on. We're not just sending guys to Europe now. We're sending guys to very, very good organizations, very good clubs, big clubs in Europe. So, long story is, I think Diego Luna is a very, very talented player. We tried to get him when he was even younger. And he ended up staying in the academy and scoring 1 million goals, I think, when he was a youth player. And El Paso signed him. You know, El Paso took the risk, and they got the reward. I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for USL that this is it looks like a good stepping stone for a lot of young players.
Speaking of national team football, I will judge you for this one. Sunday, Wales or Ukraine?
Oh, you have to cheer for Ukraine. You have to. If you're not cheering for Ukraine, you must be Welsh.